Batman issue 1, legacy number 929, Matt Fraction writing with Jorge Jimenez on the art. So yeah, you lucked out, David, and coming into a week with a big new number 1 to talk about. It's so funny. And Matt did send some thoughts on a few of these. He didn't get to all of them, but I've got a little bit from him, so we'll get to that later too.
If this happened to have been a week with Hattush, I am just going to straight up tell you I would not have back-read to the beginning of Hattush. Like, I was not going to go through that, so I'm very happy that I got this one.
You've not been keeping up with Hattush?
I have no connection with Hattush. I haven't even read Hawunch.
Hawunch. Okay, very good. Yeah, okay, all right. Well, where do we start? Yeah, so obviously, new run, new creative team, new number 1 even. It's always fun to see a creator's sort of world, what their feel is going to be like for this new run. And I think I was mostly quite pleased with this. Even one little concern I had early on was very quickly addressed within a few pages. They kind of did something that was like, okay, I can kind of see what he's doing here now, rather than just being like, oh, is he just got Batman saying something that feels wildly out of character? No, they were kind of dealing with this idea that he's got these new doubts that he's kind of wrestling with in his mind, and we'll get to that. But it's establishing the status quo here, but we'd kind of set up previously in other stuff that Gordon was going to just get a job as like a regular cop because he can't be commissioner again. So that's actually the very first thing we get is him with his partner, who is still used to calling him like sir and commish and whatever else. So all that stuff. This is a Croc story though, this first issue, and we do this kind of idea that Croc is sort of mutated into an even more monstrous version of himself, and Batman is chasing him across the city, but it has kind of a sweeter ending than perhaps you maybe were assuming that it was going to have.
Yeah, I really do like the way that this is formatted, and I was reading the Ashcan, the one that came out from Comic-Con, and it's also in the back of this issue. There's an interview with Fraction basically saying what his format is, and it says that while he's going to have an overarching arcs, he is going to be doing something. Each issue is going to be kind of standalone. Each one is just going to be their own thing. And if they're all formatted like this, I do really like the vibe of that, because it's just kind of its own nice little story told in miniature, where you get this idea of what his version of Batman's going to be about.
It feels... It's the sort of thing where, because of the era we're in, this feels more unique to do it this way, whereas there was a time when this was the normal. This was what most comic books were doing. So it feels kind of fresh because it is different to what the other books are doing. And because, we have Detective, and we've got well, Dark Patterns is ending, but we've got other Batman books, but we're getting the slow burn, long form stories.
What are you talking about? DC never puts out extra Batman books. They've got like 2 max.
Oh yeah, sure. So now we get some pretty cool monstrous stuff here. Obviously, Jimenez's art's a big talking point as well. And by and large, it's pretty stunning. Like, there's very little to complain about. Like, if I was to make a slight nitpick, that first page where you see Batman and they're going for that sort of like, I don't know if I'll call it an optical effect, because he's standing looking at the hole of like the hole in the wall at the edge of the building, and we're doing kind of that almost curved lens kind of feel. I don't know if I'm a fan of that conceptually, but I get what they're doing for. Like, I understand the intent.
Yeah. It's the GoPro. Batman's just got a GoPro right in front of him, and that's the way we're seeing this.
Yeah. So there's a whole thing here where he's talking to the scientist lady who was working with Croc before he ran out, and she's basically arguing that Croc's evolving, that he's getting nicer, and like he's confused. His brain's kind of he's kind of like a child almost, but he's not bad. He's not a villain. And Batman, and this was kind of the one little like concern I had, is Batman kind of says, but people don't change, Doctor. And I'm like, that doesn't really sound like you, Batman. Like, otherwise, why do you not just kill people if the people can't change? Like, that doesn't quite add up.
Because he's always been that way, and he can't change.
Yeah, that clearly leads, though, to like a big thing that Fraction is going to be doing here, which is this idea of him wrestling with his conscience, and that conscience is represented with Alfred in his head. So we're getting him talking to Alfred, and I have to, you know what, fair play to them, because as soon as I saw this, like, in his head Alfred sitting next to him and Batman talking to him, there was no part of it that made me annoyed or made me roll my eyes. It just kind of worked. I was like, yeah, it makes sense that he's if he's going to like talk to someone in his head who represents his like struggling conscience, it's going to be Alfred, because Alfred's the one who would challenge him on these things back in the day. So I had no problem with that. I think it's kind of a nice motif that is maybe specific to this book, where he's going to, like, I imagine it's going to be an almost every issue thing, but at least once, maybe not as heavily as this one, because this is the introduction to it. But I suspect that this is going to be an ongoing thing in Fraction's run, is this, and except for the big moment like late in the run where he stops seeing him because he's reached like I don't know, content. He'll have like solved his issue, and it'll be a big moment when he's not there anymore.
Well, I also do like the way that they phrase it here, where it doesn't feel like it's 100% a grief thing. Like there's this. I feel like the previous runs have kind of moved through that. Like, yes, he's dead. We've come to terms with that, whatever. And he's still sad about the fact that Alfred's gone, but it's a lot more of this thing of he's using him as the conscience, like you said, and not so much oh God, what would I do without you, Alfred? I can't possibly be Batman without you on my shoulder the whole time. It's just this representation of what's already inside of him.
Yeah, this is not about missing Alfred still. I mean, obviously it does, but this is not like back when after he just died, where everyone was kind of talking about Alfred in that way. This is more, no, it makes sense that this is what represents this in his head. That because Alfred's not there to have these conversations with him anymore, he has these debates with himself. So, you know, this whole idea, do people really change? And like, which one do I actually think is scarier? That they do change or they can't change? Like, that's kind of the idea that we're setting up here. And, you know, in this book... Oh, there you go.
I think that's... If we're looking at this the same sort of way as, like, you know, Tom King's run, the first issue is kind of just the mission statement. It is the thing where we're laying out what it is that's going there. I think this idea of what scares Batman more, the idea that people can or can't change, is probably the mission statement. It's this idea of... if people can't change, then that is kind of scary to him, because it's showing that he's unable to move on. He's unable to change from the scared little boy in the alley. He's just constantly going to be this same version of Batman. But I think what Fraction's going to show is, and what's shown even in this issue, is that there is the ability for change. And we're going to see, as previous writers have also done, but we're going to see this evolution of Batman moving on and becoming something more, and becoming something. I think we're kind of moving out of the phase of Batman being Frank Miller's Dark Knight, and we're moving more into a Silver Age-ish sort of, like, he is able to have fun. He's able to be happy in a way, you know?
That was 1986, David. You threw that out there so casually, and I'm like, that was before I was born. It's been almost 40 years.
But the industry hasn't moved on. The industry is like, no, he's grim and gritty, and he hates everybody, and justice above all, and he's not allowed to have fun with anything ever.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't think most Batman is actually like the Dark Knight Returns Batman. Like, Dark Knight Returns is still way more extreme. That's the epitome.
But like, even if you look back as early as like the Tom King run, I think that was a major factor in the way he was behaving, is this idea of like, no, it's the mission is all, and like death or nothing else, and then he has to move past that. I think we're finally at that tipping point where it's okay, he's out of that mindset. Can he just go back to being like the head of the Bat family, like someone who is able to enjoy himself a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, you say that, but like most of the Bat family came after that, though. Like,
well, yeah,
you know,
I'm saying, like, you know, I think of the Batman who's got Dick Grayson, Robin, and Barbara Gordon Batgirl. I'm thinking like not Adam West levels of campy, but just that's, you know, the Silver Age version. The idea of it being able to do that fun stuff before the death of Jason Todd, before Dark Knight Returns, stuff like that.
We'll see. I still think there's going to be darkness in this. Like, I don't think it's going to be devoid of that.
Oh yeah.
Clearly, it's got a heart. Clearly, the way this story goes, ultimately by the end, there's a little side detour where Batman saves a couple ladies in the park who are being mugged by this gang of colorful characters, and he steps in. There's a whole thing here with the butterfly is a metaphor, which we're still talking about here. But he leaves the car to sort of protect them, and goes about investigating. And we still have this idea of like the ghostly Alfred in his head, kind of like commenting, and he's like, "Oh, Alfred, how I've missed that dry wit." But he goes into the what was this building again? Was it the gardens, like a botanical gardens?
Yeah, it's the Natural History Museum, but they have
okay.
like a butterfly exhibit there.
That's the one. So he goes in and he basically has the shock gloves from the Arkham video games. He turns them on. We get this. It's not quite a full page spread, but it's almost a full page spread of him lighting these up. So we get this, blue glow. Coloring's very nice, and full on Monster Croc with extra teeth, extra jaggy bits all over his arms, is ready to go. But Batman does not fight. That is not what we do here. We de-escalate instead. Croc is indeed a bit more like a child. Croc basically just asks him to leave. He's like, "You bad, you go." And then Batman looks up at the giant T-Rex that they've got in the museum and says, "Oh, I had one like that in my home," and basically sits down with Croc, like takes the cowl off and sits down with them. And it made me go, wait, does Croc know who Batman is? And then I thought, oh, is he just doing this because Croc's like a child now and it won't matter?
Yeah, he's not going to care. Yeah.
But he sits down and calls him buddy and sort of acts nice with him. He sort of like plays not a parent, but like an adult. He's like, no, I'm going to sit down and make this kid feel at ease because that's what this situation calls for. It doesn't call for me beating him to a pulp with my fancy electric gloves. It calls for compassion. So it's kind of this nice, like, sweet moment. And as far as mission statements go, if this is the mission statement, is like, okay, Batman's going to try and do some things a little bit differently if he can, and maybe reconnect with his human side a little bit more, then I think that's a pretty good mission statement. And I say this as someone who, like, my history with Matt Fraction is basically one book, and that is his Hawkeye book, which is very good. And any other Matt Fraction book I tried like one issue of and didn't really like that much. I don't think there's a ton of them that I've tried, but all the ones that I did try other than that Hawkeye book, I didn't like. This was solid though. I had no issues.
Yeah, no, it doesn't feel like it's doing anything too big. It's not like, saying, oh, I'm going to bust down the doors on everything is Batman. Like, it's taking a very reserved approach here. It's not even like Croc has changed that ridiculously. It's not like we're getting the absolute version of Croc or anything in this issue. It's some more jagged changes and whatnot, but it's played into the story of how he sees himself as big and mean and scary, and how that influences him to act big and mean and scary, and how it's like this fulfilling cycle. And the doctors come in and they say, no, we can break that. We can just go back, we'll get you treatment. You made a bad choice, but it doesn't make you a bad person. And I think that again, my idea of it going back to like Silver Age, I think that's kind of the parallel there, is that Batman is viewed as this big, mean, scary thing. It is this thing that strikes fear into the hearts of criminals. And I think it's something where Batman might be looking internally and saying, is that really who I want to be? Is that something like, yes, that may be what Batman should be, but is that who I want to be within Batman? And it's influencing some of the choices he may end up making.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of spelled out a little bit where Croc says, who helps? I'm going with these doctors, who helps you? He says it in a much more like kiddie way. And Batman says, oh, my head is okay, Wayland, I don't need help. And he just goes, if you say so, and hands him a toy dinosaur, and it's kind of like to replace the one that he doesn't have anymore from the cave. And he's sort of left standing there. It's the idea that Croc is sort of looking at him the same way that he looks at himself, is thinking of himself as a bad monster. And that maybe Batman has to like work out, in what ways am I not a bad monster, or am I? Like, do I have to sort of wrestle with that? So, he puts this little toy dinosaur in a case back at one of the or the main cave underneath the Pennyworth Manor. Which, to be honest, this was set up. I remember this being set up, this Pennyworth Manor, and then it feels like they've really not done anything with it since they set it up at the end of King's Run.
Was it at the end of King's Run?
Was it the end of King's Run? Maybe it was in a Tynan. I don't know. It was the end of one of the runs, but it wasn't the last. It wasn't Zarsky. I don't think. I think it was before Zarsky. I could be wrong though. But I think
he lost all of his money in. I want to say that was Tynan's run. That was towards the end of that. That was after Joker War. Right, so I'd imagine it would have to be around there.
It may have been that. Maybe it was in the middle of Zarsky's run, but it's been a while. It wasn't like the end of Zarsky's run anyway. It was definitely because I remember the issue where he sort of shows them all and says it's Pennyworth Manor. And I feel like we've barely seen it since then. Right. So I actually kind of like... So this is the thing, for everything else we've been saying about this feeling fresh and different, this is not like we're shitting all over continuity and we're going to ignore anything that's been set up. Like, Vandal Savage is the commissioner of police right now. That is well within what's been happening in Gotham in recent times. And clearly Fraction's going to use that. He has a scene with Savage where he's talking about, getting Batman eventually. We have the Pennyworth Manor here. Like, everything is very much in the continuity of what's been going on. So, because sometimes when you get a new team on a book, it kind of feels like they're like, okay, they're not going to contradict anything, but a bunch of stuff's not going to get mentioned ever again.
Yeah, all those characters that came around in the last arc, and they all rallied to help whoever the hero was in that book. They all magically got on a bus and went away, never to be seen again.
Yeah, so the issue ends with Batman getting a call from what turns out to be Tim Drake on the last page, who is in a kerfuffle because he's taken down like a mugger or something. That's what it looks like, and there's cops behind him holding him at gunpoint. It sounds like Savage's whole, we're not going to put up with these vigilantes anymore. I'm ordering you to take care of them. Is coming up.
I do think that's going to be another one of the, maybe not mission statements, but a theme that's going to be dealt with here is when we get Vandal Savage's scene, he is showing off a new tactical unit agent, tactical urban combat officers, he calls them. And it's basically just SWAT team with bigger guns and more armor and stuff like that.
It also specifically tells the police, like, hey, if you see like a vigilante or a superpowered individual, you call in this team, you are not to engage. So that's, I think, another key plot point there.
Yeah, but he specifically is deploying this of they're searching the city for Croc because he's a threat, he's big, he's out there. And obviously, as we get by the end of the issue, what ends up taking Croc back in is sitting down and talking and taking the more peaceful action. I think we may be getting one of those how much force is necessary sort of things, especially with modern culture and like current police sentiment and stuff like that. I think the idea of him coming in and saying maybe punching isn't always the best option is going to be a bigger thing for Fraction's run. Sure.
I'm sure you'll have plenty of people to punch as well, but I can see that's been a big theme of this. So no, Tim has kind of a new outfit. At least it looks new to me at the end.
I'll be honest, I don't think I've seen anything with Tim since he was Drake, so whatever.
Oh, that's true. It's not like I've seen a lot of Tim recently. Maybe this is what he had in whatever random miniseries he was in the last couple of years. But I mean, Tim being one of the main supporting characters, perhaps. Obviously, they set up Gordon, they've set up Savage. So we've got a few players that we're dealing with here on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, obviously over in Batman and Robin, we're dealing with Damian a bit more, but wasn't Tim the one who was like really hanging around in Zdarsky's run, like as he was doing the multiverse hopping and stuff like that?
Yeah, in the multiverse hopping, but that was like, that was like
beginning of the run, yeah.
Yeah, that was like the second arc, which, so a good over a year ago, certainly at this point. And like we said, Jimenez is a solid artist. There's very, I mean, that's even selling it a bit short, to be honest. The art's pretty spectacular in a lot of places. Particularly those sort of like when he sees the T-Rex and there's almost like these just god rays coming down from the skylight to sort of give it this glow, give it this magical feeling. And also the idea that Croc is like drawn to it because he sort of sees himself in a T-Rex. I think it's an inspired little choice, which is nice. So, no, I mean, it's very big, it's very detailed. There's a lot of depth to the images. I think the layouts are very simple. This is not the sort of book that's doing a lot of really wacky layouts, but it's very well paced, and when there is action, it does flow very well. It's clearly there's a conscious choice been made here about how to sort of how to lay this book out, is because some books go for something that's more consistently fancy, and sometimes like the more straightforward choice is the right one, and that's what they've went with here. But the art always feels very like top tier, always feels high caliber. So nothing to complain about for sure.
No, definitely not. And I again, even just like the smaller moments here of him rescuing those two women in the park from what I can only assume are the Scissors Gang, because they have scissors. It's a strange gang, but whatever. It's a nice little beat. It's just a tiny little downbeat of the police don't think that it's worth them coming in here and breaking up gang violence. I disagree. And you get a good action scene followed immediately by this breakdown of him finding the butterfly. And it's such good writing where it can pivot from such a fast-paced action scene to such a soft moment of Batman just holding a butterfly in his finger. And it really feels like it works.
It does lead to another thing I would praise this issue for, is I think it's very well paced. There's a very good pacing to this, where it sets up a problem, Batman has to go looking, there's an action sequence, and then it calms down for the sort of the more heartfelt ending to the whole thing, and then there's a cliffhanger. And part of that's the art, because it is so well paced out in all of its layouts, but part of it is just the writing. And it's kind of going back to what we were saying right at the start, is this, that it feels like a mostly self-contained story. At least the main plot of it is. It's kind of like a 90s or early 2000s TV show in that sense, where it's got the story of the issue, but there's like a lot of B-plot stuff that's doing the overarching things, like all the stuff with the police and Tim at the end. That's all about the larger story, but we've got this A-plot with Croc that feels like fulfilled by the end, and it makes a point by the end, so you feel like you've gotten a satisfying meal. So yeah, no,
I think that's the part I'm looking forward to the most with this run. If it keeps up this sort of pacing where each issue is its own self-contained thing, is that it doesn't feel like it's just an endless parade of cliffhangers with no resolution. Like, we will actually, at the end of each issue, feel like we got a story told.
Yeah. So with all that said, what you rating Batman issue 1?
I mean, it's very, very good. I really don't have, from the writing to the art, I really don't have anything bad to say about it. I think it's we were saying that it is kind of down to basics, and I would agree with that. So I don't want to say it did anything exemplary, like over the top, but I would still give it a very solid 8.5.
Yeah, I was thinking 8.5 as well. It's the sort of thing where it feels like it could be the start of a special run. I just kind of need to see how it takes shape as he writes more of it, and we get more of where it's really going. But it's a really solid first issue, and of course one of the big things that help in it is that it's following Hitush, which was following Zarsky's run, which I didn't really like. So like it's definitely, I mean, it's the most promising issue of Batman I've read in like 3 years or something like that. So it's been a while since the main Batman book has been working for me, and it's a shame, because Zarsky was a promising person to put on the book. It just ended up being disappointing. It is interesting though, because like Zarsky and Fraction I both associate more with Marvel, just because that's where I saw them first. So it's just kind of funny that we're on another like ex-Marvel writer here. But it's good stuff. I'm excited for issue 2 and seeing where he keeps going with it. It feels bold. It feels like a really easy jumping on point. I mean, even that opening scene with Gordon, I mean, obviously it's a good scene, and it kind of like fills you in and like where he's going to be in the world. But if you're a new reader, or you're someone who's not read Batman in years, it explains that he's got this new position, that he's not commissioner anymore. It sets things up. It sets up the Savage as the commissioner. It makes a point of going through, this is the status quo right now, so if you've not been reading the comics, here's the stuff that you need to know. Otherwise you'll be scratching your head later when various things happen.
There's also a bit when he's flying over Gotham, they do a couple of cuts to like TV shows, or specifically like news stations, and it kind of gives you just a feel of the city as well. How is everyone feeling about Gotham? And it seems like tensions are pretty high on a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. That's Batman issue 1. Batman issue 2, legacy number 930. Matt Fraction writing with Jorge Jimenez on the art. So, yeah, we ended last issue with the call from Tim saying he was in trouble. This issue goes a little bit before that to set that up, and see like why he's in trouble with the police in this alleyway. But we start with a flashback though to when Bruce started training Tim how to drive, because hey, you're going to drive the Batmobile someday. You're not learning in that though. You're learning in this crappy old truck, because you have to learn with something a bit more. I was going to say small. A truck's not exactly small relative to most cars, but compared to the Batmobile, it's on the smaller side.
You mean the Batmo?
We're not calling it that. I agree with Batman on this. We're never calling it that.
yeah. I didn't like that either, but I thought it made for a fun joke.
Yeah. Also, it's a bit vague as to exactly how far in the past this is, but you would assume, a little bit ago, because Damien's just being a little shit and like spraying him with the hose when he's washing the Batmobile. So I'm like, okay, this feels like Damien's maybe new in this flashback.
Early into their relationship with Damien, like he knows he can't kill people anymore. He's still hanging around, but he hasn't learned how to be a proper young gentleman yet. So
yeah, well, there is that moment though where Tim's struggling to deal with the car and get it going. And Damien jumps on the top of it and like says, enough of this, you're a loser. Father, let me try. And Bruce actually tells him to stall the engine to make Damien go flying. And I thought that was a fun little moment. It was like, hey, Damien can take this. He deserves a little bit of comeuppance for being a little shit.
That is parenting 101 right there.
Yeah.
You gotta have your kids learn to fight their own battles.
Yeah, the main part of this issue though is that basically these thieves are robbing a truck. One of them gets overzealous and shoots the driver. So immediately it's like, okay, bad guys. Tim shows up to fight them, and starts tracking them down. However, it gets interrupted when two police officers show up, and the police officers decide to just open fire on the suspects, even though they're just running away. To which Tim is like, hey, what the hell? Why are you firing shots? They're running away. And he's like, well, we've been told to treat running away suspects as hostile and use any means necessary. So a big part of this issue is really setting up the idea that the police under Vandal Savage are getting a bit more ruthless. They're getting more trigger happy. And then, of course, as the book continues through the issue, you get the sense that also they're very anti-Batman and Robin right now. And by the end, that's like sort of set in stone, because when Tim throws down a smoke pellet and starts jumping to get away, the cop shoots him, and he falls and is put in the back of the van with all the other people they've arrested that night. So we actually get a really fun sequence here where Tim is fighting, even though he's wounded, with a bunch of people in the van, and the cops up front are just like swerving around corners to try and like make it tougher for him. They're enjoying making his life miserable.
Well, and one of them's like, are you really going to do this to him? He's a kid. He's handcuffed. Those other guys aren't. And then he's like, yeah, and watch this. And he starts doing the swerving and stuff too. So everything's very much on purpose from these guys.
Well, we should probably point out from one of them, like, because there's the one who's the hothead who's shooting, who's swerving the car. The other one keeps kind of being like, really? like, are you doing
what
this?
What are we doing? Yeah,
because later on when they get to like a sort of a standoff, he's kind of like on Robin's side at a certain point. But Robin breaks free though of his handcuffs, and like, everyone gets knocked out, and ultimately Batman puts out some because Fraction's doing that thing where he's doing the little captions for the all the bat tech. So earlier on we got it for the smoke pellet, and we got it for his fancy boots that have got some
electromagnetic stuff in them.
Yeah, to help with the leaping and all that. So we get the bat spikes, which is just what would you call it, the road spikes.
They're the road spikes. They wheel out during a chase.
Yeah, So
it's the one thing that can bring the fast guys down, right?
Yeah. So it's like
I've never seen them. Yeah.
It's a good halfway or so through the issue, and Batman's finally shown up and taken made the truck stop, and the trigger happy cop pulls out his shotgun and starts making demands, and it gets into a tense situation where the other cop pulls out his gun and points at his partner and says, "What are we doing here?" So we get this moment where they both end up firing. Batman jumps in front of Robin to shield him with his cape, but both cops have been hit. right? They're both down. Like, you know, the better cop's like got a wound. The shotgun cop's like wounded because his partner hit him. And then the big moment comes when Batman turns to see if he can help the other cop. The shotgun guy reaches for his shotgun, and we get a great panel in silhouette of him shooting Batman in the back of the head with a shotgun. Now, his cowl, his armor, you know, does protect him, but it's obviously a nasty, like, thud to the back of the head, so it feels quite violent anyway, even if it's not like a, you know, an actual gunshot, like, killing thing.
He's still getting a concussion. Like, that's still blunt force trauma to the skull. You know, not good for Bruce.
Oh, for sure. And obviously, like, as soon as this started playing out and, like, Tim drags him away and, like, they go to the car and this pays off with the flashbacks of him learning to drive as he has to drive back the Batmobile back to the house or whatever, is... As soon as this was playing out, I'm like, okay, I can kind of see what the ending of this issue is going to be. I kind of predicted it, which is they're going to blame this, like, you know, the shooting of these officers on Batman and Robin, right? They're going to, because they fled the scene of the crime. Look, you know, Batman's attacked the vehicle. They're going to, like, make them look like the villains here. And sure enough, that's how the issue ends, with Vandal Savage doing a press conference, holding up a batarang covered in blood and saying, yes, these vigilantes did this. They are now the enemy of the GCPD. And it sets all this stuff up. You know, I think this was another really good issue of this book. I think this runs off to a good start. It's really furthering the central theme that they're going for, which is that, you know, the most of the police force is against Batman and Robin right now. The Vandal Savage is really making them out to be villains. And this issue sold you that in multiple ways. It sold you that they're willing to shoot at Robin. You know, this one's really trigger happy, tries to shoot at Batman's head, and then it leaves them in this situation where they're now they've got propaganda against them to kind of, like, you know, cart out and try and turn the public against them. So, you know, it feels like it's set up a lot of stuff for the run, like a lot of status quo stuff of, like, this is what the vibe is in Gotham right now. And I'm sure once we see Gordon again, he's obviously going to be like very against all the rest of the force on this.
Yeah. Definitely, it definitely feels like a Gotham of old, where the police are they're given carte blanche to do whatever they want, right? As long as Savage is okay with it, you know, they can kind of do whatever. Because he even says, like, you know, with the reporters that are on the scene, he goes, break their cameras, break their jaws, right? So it's just like, it's an utter ruthlessness out of him now. And yeah, that entire, you know, scene too is, no one threw a batarang, right? There's nothing. So, like, Savage is going out of his way to formulate issues, right? Like, there's already a distrust of Batman. We've always had that with the police, but now making it look like he's actively harming cops instead of trying to stop them from harming each other. You know, like, it really is the next step. So I really did like that. Yeah,
no. I think the art obviously is pretty fantastic as well. Jimenez does a great job. I love all the panels of Tim driving the Batmobile and yelling about all the gears, and Batman's like, oh yeah, there's a 13 secret gear. I can't tell you what that does. Like, that was amusing to me. Yeah, my only critique with the art is that there's a few times where Tim's face is a little veering into manga territory, which I don't love, but it's hard to complain much, though, because Jimenez's art does look generally fantastic. I love the coloring. It's really bold. Still digging Batman's sort of fresh take on the costume. No, it feels like, it's got a real direction and focus, which I appreciate. Sometimes you read a run from a new team and it's kind of like, okay, they're doing stories, but it doesn't really feel like it's building to anything. This feels like there's a direction in mind for where this is all going.
And it doesn't fully feel like episodic. It just feels like we're dropping into a night with Batman and Robin, right? Like, this is just what's happening on this night. And, you know, the next issue might not follow up on exactly these, but those themes will still be there. Yeah. You know, so I do like that it's going off of the vibe.
Even if it doesn't focus on this next issue, I guarantee there'll be at least one scene where we get, like, see a cop react to Batman or something. You know, something to keep it bubbling as things go on.
And then you're talking about the scene where Tim's driving the Batmobile with Bruce, and everything has this blue shading on it, and then his Robin suit is just the red. And it just sticks out, and it does this really pleasing thing with the colors here, where there's a little spot of red throughout. And Yeah, it's just it's really competent art. I'm a big fan of how this turned out.
Yeah, and also of course we got the introduction to Tim in the last issue, and then Damien's in this one. I appreciate that it feels like, you know, like, I mean, I don't know if we'll go through everyone, but sometimes when you get to like a run of a certain hero, it sometimes feels like the team wants to ignore X number of characters that they just don't want to address. I like that both Tim and Damien have both popped up already in here, and you know, there's probably no one off the table, I imagine, going forward, but certainly I like just the kind of the casualness of like, and it's not necessarily a case of like, oh, they're both going to be like secondary main characters where they're always going to be around. I'm sure they'll sort of dip in and out, but I like just kind of like, oh no, like, because I think when they introduced Tim, I was like, okay, it's cool that Tim's getting a bit of a spotlight because he's not been the Robin in the spotlight for a while. But I appreciate, because I think I assumed that, oh, that means it's probably just going to be Tim. They're probably going to ignore a lot of the other Bat family for at least this arc. And then it's like, no, there's Damien already. All right, fair enough. You know, no complaints. So, no, very good. Solid second issue. Excited to see where they go with this. Matt, what are you giving Batman issue 2?
I'm going to give this an 8.5.
I know it's boring to just keep agreeing with you, but I actually think I agree with that. Like, I don't know if I want to go up to the 9, but I do think it's a very, very tight issue. I like that by focusing on Tim and like getting that, you know, because that obviously one of the standout panels is when he gets shot. There's that silhouette of him just falling down the fire escape to the alleyway. Like, you know, it spends time with him. It spends time with like how he's facing like these cops that are getting too trigger happy, and then obviously Batman coming in to sort of save the day. Normally that'd be it, but then Batman gets shot in the back of the head, and it kind of shows just how brazen they're getting. So I like how big a deal it makes it feel that these cops are just firing at them willy-nilly. Batman issue 3, legacy number 931, Matt Fraction writing with Jorge Jimenez on the art. So the big cliffhanger at the end of the last issue was that, you know, Tim had that alteration with the cops and Batman showed up, and then they tried, Vandal Savage clearly trying to frame it as Batman and Robin have killed some police officers, so now we're anti-Batman and Robin. It's all out war on the bats. This issue starts with a teenager in one of the apartments nearby recording his grandmother on the phone for some school project or something. And he hears gunshots outside and actually like goes out and films, and it kind of looks from his perspective that Batman and Robin might have done this, because when he goes outside after the gunshots, there's cops lying on the ground and Batman and Robin are fleeing the scene of the crime. But he also seems to be filming when the rest of the, you know, police and that show up and Vandal Savage is there, and we clearly see Vandal Savage pull out a batarang from his pocket and shove it into the dead body. The kid seems to have been filming during this, and we do get a small scene later on when he goes to someone who lives in his building who happens to be a journalist and is like, hey, I've got something you might want to see. It's a news-related thing.
I just love that no matter what, corrupt cops are still corrupt cops. Like, for all the life that Vandal Savage has lived, he's still literally pulling the battering out of his pocket, looking around, and then putting it in the crime scene. Like, it is still such funny kind of Keystone Cop behavior.
Yeah, he's also going to the cop that lived. Is in the hospital, and Vandal Savage goes to him and says, "You're going to say Batman did this, or I'm going to kill you right now in this hospital bed." You know, that's the gist of the scene. So again, he's laying on thick.
He crimps the oxygen tube going to the oxygen mask, and then it starts, you know, the guy starts flat lighting and whatnot. So yeah, again, some real bad cop stuff here. I love it.
Yeah, and then Bruce then is at the hospital to visit Tim, because Tim obviously did get shot, so he is getting some medical attention.
And worked over, right? Because it was him versus the prisoners.
That's true, yeah, true. I would assume it's mainly the gunshot. Well, I mean, don't have Alfred anymore, but I assume they can treat the bruises and the scrapes and, you know. Yeah,
well, because it's just Bernard's there to also see Tim.
Yeah, and Bernard gives Bruce a telling off and says, every time Tim spends a weekend with you, he comes back hurt. And I'm like, wait, does Bernard think that Bruce has been abusive? Because that's what it kind of sounds like.
That's what it sounded like to me, because he goes, you know, this is what happens when you go down a mountain on your face and not your skis. And so, that also sounds like something that an abused person would say. Right? Like, I fell down the mountain on my own.
Yeah. Feels like Tim might have to fess up about some of his life to Bernard later on in the story if this is going to get cleared up. Because I don't know how you clear Bruce here in his eyes without Tim being like, okay, by the way, I'm a vigilante. I get beat up a lot. It's not Bruce. Like, just, Yeah.
Because he says whenever you and Tim go off on your little bro weekends, he comes back beaten up to hell. It's weird, isn't it? Whenever he spends time with you, he gets hurt. And it's like, oh, this kid's putting it together. This is not good for Bruce.
Well, I don't know if he's put it together, because I think he just thinks Bruce is abusive. Yeah. Frankly.
Well, that's what I mean. There's something up that he's noticing, right? Like, which again, that's smart writing from Faction. Like, if you're gonna have, these close relationships with the characters, it would make sense that Bernard would pick up on stuff like this. And he is visiting, because I forgot about the whole Bernard thing. So when we go there and there's this kid, and I was like, oh yeah, that started in one of the side,
Oh yeah. If they didn't say what his name was here, I could never have told you the name of this character.
But just the idea that Tim and Bernard have still been doing things and hanging out and doing, whatever the extent of their relationship was. I don't know if they were officially together, because I didn't keep reading that. That was in the Gotham book, where they had all the anthology style ones. But yeah, that's good that writers like Faction bring that back in and remind you there's the bigger world, that's ongoing. It's not just Bruce and Tim on Bat and Robin adventures. Yeah.
So on TV, they're debating Batman and Robin and whether or not he's a psychopath and blah, blah, blah. Hugo Strange. Apparently, Hugo Strange has got his name cleared enough that he's on TV shows now. Because this is still in continuity. This is not like we're doing a year one story where no one knows Hugo Strange is a psychopath.
And it seems like he's kind of the voice of reason here, which is weird.
Well, kind of, but he's a voice of reason in a very anti-Batman and Robin way.
Yes.
So, but the scientist lady's on there talking about her tech to try and make the insane sane, and that's obviously something we were tapping into with the that issue 1 Clayface story that we got.
Killer Croc.
Oh, sorry, Killer Croc. Yeah, I knew it was one of the big monstery ones. But yeah. So she's got on about this and how, because they're arguing, hey, Wayne's funding you, blah 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 blah. Does that mean he gets a say in what you're researching? And she's like, no, it's just a donation. He has no say in what we're doing. So that sets some things up as well. We get a scene of Bruce and Damien training, and Bruce is distracted by everything going on, and he's clearly the fact that Tim's been this hurt and now he's been confronted by it, and he's seen these debates on TV. He's really thinking about his role in all this. We also see Gordon make a call to Bullock to put up the quote-unquote bat signal, which turns out to be like a little toy bat stuck to his window, which is the stealth bat signal, because obviously they can't just light the big light right now.
Yep. Well, and I love when they get up to the rooftop and Bullock's like, all that time we had that big old floodlight, and now we just use a stuffed animal. And Gordon starts going, well, really, it was like a symbol for others to know that Batman and Bullock kind of cut him off. I thought that was very funny.
Yeah, but he's right though. I mean, as soon as Bullock made that joke, I'm like, yeah, but it wasn't about just that. This is not about, because the only way to get in touch with them is the big light. It's about this, the symbolic thing of everyone knowing he's out there, and Batman even says it was Gordon's idea, to have the big symbolic thing. So so basically they talk about what's going on, and that Savage is like declaring hunting season on bats and all that. Things are super corrupt. But there's a really funny gag here where Bullock says, wait, how are you going to disappear on his Batman? This is a tiny roof. There's no way you can do it. And then Batman says, oh, that woman's getting, that car's trying to hit that woman. And they all look down and they're like, holy shit. And then it's like, no, wait, no, they're not. And then they turn around and Batman's gone. And he's like, son of a bitch.
Funny, very bleeping funny.
Yes.
Out of Bullock, yeah.
Yeah, I guess you like that. And then the final big sequence is that Riddler's broke into the lab building and is, assaulting security guards and whatnot. Batman shows up, punches him a bunch of times. He's got a stealth suit. We're continuing this, tech box with the various things that he has. He beats up Riddler, solves his riddles, and it turns out Riddler was coming here to steal this tech that he saw her talk about on TV, because he wants to calm down his brain. Like, he keeps hearing riddles, yeah. Like, he has to talk in riddles. He's always thinking a million miles a minute, and he wants to take it away. So it's just an idea that maybe some of the villains want this. But he reveals that some of the other villains have had this tested on them. So the issue ends with Batman on his way to Arkham, because that's where there's been some testing. And is it ethical that these tests have been happening at Arkham? It doesn't feel like it is ethical, and that's why Batman's maybe a bit miffed about it. So you get a big full-page spread of him driving off, talking to Alfred in his head. There was also one moment with Ghost Alfred earlier where Damien in training won the fight by kicking him in the nuts. And Bruce said, "Alfred, did I ever do that to you?" He's like, "Not physically, but spiritually, many times."
Yeah, God. I do like when people bring a sense of humor to Batman, and not just Bruce, but like through the other characters. So here we get Gordon and Bullock and the Ghost of Alfred, you know, and I really like the Riddler stuff because the riddles he was speaking in aren't what you would think of as Riddler riddles, right? It's just like he's just saying things in this manic state. So I automatically clocked something was up, you know? And then so when Bruce finally gets to him and hits him with the sedative, you know, it's almost like an act of mercy, you know, because he's like, hours. This has been going on for hours.
He also has a bit of paper on him that's all riddles, but when Batman solves the riddles, it's basically just a shopping list. It's like eggs, milk, bread are the answers, because he has to do everything in riddles, and he's trying to make that stop. He's trying to make the voices stop, effectively. I think that's an interesting concept. I will say, though, that I probably think this is the least favorite of the 3 issues so far, just purely because, while I like most of the individual parts, I like what he's doing with, like, you know, I like what he's doing with the Vandal Savage Cop stuff, I like what he's doing with the kid witnessing that, I like what he's doing with this Riddler wanting the technology, I like what he's doing with Batman questioning himself and, like, being a bit off his game. All of this stuff individually I like. It's just that I think as a whole, this issue doesn't feel as like tight as like a full story. It feels very much as just lots of little parts that are the next part of the story, as opposed to a full meal that I think both issues 1 and 2 offered quite well.
It feels like a bridge between things. Like this is the in between to get to the next big chunk. But it feels less standalone-y too, like the first 2 did.
Yes.
You know, those felt like a very episodic. You know, kind of not even freak of the week, but like thing of the month, right? Like it's the last one was Robin versus the crooked cops, and the first one was Batman chasing down Killer Croc, and then there's been these little serialized pieces. This one felt like more of the serialized pieces, you know.
Yeah, it was I think it would be very difficult for someone who's not read issue 1 and 2 to get anything out of this issue, because everything relies kind of on you being familiar with what's going on. Whereas issue 1 and 2, well, they had little serialized bits in them, they primarily were this A-plot that could be enjoyed on its own, which I don't think's a big deal, in the sense that, like, obviously I'm reading them all the issues anyway, and I think that they should reward you for reading all the issues, but it's just a case of, like, they felt so nice to read as a monthly issue, because they did have a full kind of chapter to themselves, as well as the little serialized bits. So so I would probably say this is the weakest of the 3 issues. Still very good, though. I still like everything it's doing. It just isn't as tight and as like this amazing structure that the last couple have been. So maybe it's just a necessary evil, because he has to set up a bunch of stuff before what we're doing next. Maybe we're off to Arkham. Maybe the next issue is going to mostly take place there, or whatever.
Yeah.
But
and this device, I don't know if you mentioned the device. It's like this helmet that has electrodes that go into the brain, and it disrupts patterns of thinking. Right, like it gets in there on the cellular level, and that's why Hugo Strange is saying, like, if he had done this to Van Gogh, he wouldn't have painted Starry Night. And the doctor that created this device is like, yeah, he also wouldn't have died at 37. You know, like there's nothing sexy about bad mental health. You know, and so it was very weird to see Hugo Strange talk about, like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't be messing with this kind of stuff, but it's also Hugo Strange, who's done really bad things. So
he likes messing with people's minds. I feel like if this was his idea, he'd be all for it. This is
100%. He just doesn't like it because she beat him to it. Yeah. So, but yeah, I like that whole sequence. And again, I do feel like this doctor does have like good things in mind. I just think that she's underestimating the people of Gotham, like the people that are in Arkham for a reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I mean, maybe this will give us a glimpse into like a sane version of some of these characters. I would be very bold to use it on the Joker. I kind of hope they don't do that. Maybe they can tease it, perhaps, that hey, this will make Joker sane for 24 hours. What do we do with that idea, kind of thing? But not bad, Ben. I mean, obviously the art is very good still. Jimenez kind of kills it, makes it a lot very fun, very vivid, very colorful. So no complaints there.
I love the sequence with Bruce and Damian fighting. Just the way that like there's the panel right when he kicks him in the crotch. Right above it, we have them fighting across the screen and talking about the different subjects, and I thought that was very well paced. Like Jimenez is pretty good at this type of stuff.
I mean, honestly, the only critique I'd give the art is not really an art critique. It's more just that because this issue is what it is, it doesn't have as big bombastic things for it to do, you know, in the art. But that's not the art's fault. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like the biggest page is that splash page. It's the one page of the stealth suit, right?
Yeah.
When he's kind of materializing. And then that's really the only one that comes to mind. Everything else are these kind of smaller moments.
Yeah. Yeah. And they do a big thing with the last page, but even the last page looks good, but like it did kind of feel like this isn't like an amazing cliffhanger. It's just kind of like this is the best thing you could come up with based on where the story's ending here for now. Yeah. So yeah, off to Arkham we go. Off to see the Ark, the wonderful Ark of Ham.
The doctors, I would say the wonderful doctors of Ark.
All right, man. What do you give Batman issue 3?
I'm gonna give this a straight 8.
Yeah, I think I. No, I think I'm going to dock it just slightly to 7.5. Okay. Just for the reasons I mentioned, that it feels like a collection of interesting and good story bits, but not something that feels as cohesive as a whole in a satisfying way that I think issues 1 and 2 were. No, it's still good though. Like, I'm not really complaining per se. Batman issue 4, legacy number 932, Matt Fraction writing with Jorge Jimenez on the art. So we're introducing the Minotaur. What is the Minotaur, you might ask, ladies and gentlemen? Well, all of the crime families, most of which sound pretty new to me. I don't recognize a lot of these names.
Yeah, no. So this is what I love that Fraction's doing. It feels like classic Batman, but it's been updated. You know, so it feels like these are the new crime sectors of Gotham, right? Not new in that, you know, but compared to the Falcones, compared to the what was Eric Roberts' character in The Dark Knight, Maroni, you know, like compared to those guys, you know, but these seem like the typical, like not the freaks, but the gangsters, and they seem to be updated versions of that.
Yeah, Penguin's got one group, but everyone else is pretty much either new or at least I don't remember them anyway. So there's all these gangs working, and what we learn in this issue, to kind of just go at it backwards a little bit, just because it's easier to explain it this way, is that the Minotaur is someone, and we don't know who it is under the mask, if it is someone potentially, you know, that we'll recognize, but there is someone in the Minotaur mask who is controlling all these crime families. And there's an incident at the start of the issue, which is basically that one gang were going to pay for something with diamonds, and they hid the diamonds in like the tank of a truck, and another there was Anarchy and his group that tried to like hijack the truck, but this all kind of set off a bit of a weird sort of like gang war between 3 different like mobs in the city. So it's like, okay, this is all breaking down, and the Minotaur's watching this and he's not very happy, and he calls them all in for a meeting to basically say, hey, I've built, like, he calls it the crime algorithm, right? Profits are up higher than any crime family's ever had, right? We all have our own sectors, you know, one crime group, you're about the vice, one crime group's about the arms, one crime group's about all the gambling and all that shit, you know, so on and so on. And we all have our part to play in the machine. And if we're up, we're all up. We're all making, it talks about like 480% up over what crime was making money-wise last year. And because obviously Commissioner Savage is like all pro crime, we're doing especially well. So everything's going hunky-dory, but you guys having this little pissing contest is costing us money. We've lost billions of dollars in the last 3 days. And I buy that you make a lot of money in crime. I'm going to say that I don't think one city's organized crime is making billions in days. Like, I feel like we're, you know,
Gotham is pretty corrupt.
Yeah, but how many people is there to make billions is a lot, even in 2025. Billions is a lot of money to be making in days. Movies that make $1 billion don't do it for weeks.
Yeah, so here he says like over the last day we're each down 4.4 million, right? So that's 28 million over the last day, right? Because there's 7 of them. So, you know, I don't know necessarily mean if it's billions and millions. Maybe he's being hyperbolic here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
But at the same time, I really like this approach because the way that the Minotaur brings them together, he talks about this knot, right? And it's called the Tauros, and it's the prime knot, and it's 7 strands all pulling against each other. And when it works, it's the strongest, right? But one piece gets a fray, and the whole thing falls apart. And the way that you know, that's how he says how they're working, you know. And then he holds up his hand, and this dude has 7 fingers on one of his hands. I had to do a double take at that. That was a fun little piece here to the character.
I'm upset that Jorge Jimenez has resorted to AI to draw his comics, frankly.
I mean, maybe this guy is AI. Maybe he is. Maybe that's the statement here. You know, he is the crime algorithm, and he doesn't know how to, you know, produce a human body because he only knows numbers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but no, he's talking about building this perfectly working machine where everything benefits everyone else, and they all have to stay in line. And the big dramatic ending to the issue is that to teach them a lesson, there's a consequence for like them having this little tiff. Even though, from the sounds of it, only 3 of the gangs were involved in this tiff, he still teaches it to all 6 of them. Because the 7th one is him, I think. He's like number 7.
Yeah.
So the 6 gangs is like, hey, I brought loved ones of all of you, and then he has his henchmen shoot all the loved ones. So, and they're all screaming. Like, because he obviously he unveils them all and says, hey, I brought a loved one along, and they're all tied up, they've all got guns pointed at them, and I'm like, oh, he's trying to scare them, and they're all yelling at him for it, you know, and Penguin's yelling about his beloved, and then we just hear gunshots, and like, you know, the red covers the panel, and it's like, oh, he actually just went through with this. He just killed all these spouses and brothers and kids of whoever these crime people are. So I think it has a ballsy ending. It has a big thing where it's trying to really sell you this idea of this Minotaur character being a big deal. I think the only thing he has a line while he's explaining all this where he basically says, oh, this is keeping the bat off of like the scent, right? Batman's busy with this. And but he also says in the same line that all of the super villains, right? They've all been taken off the table. That's part of why we're flourishing so much, is that we're not dealing with Jokers and Two-Faces and whoever else running around. And that's fine. But then he says that Batman's busy and he's not... And I'm like, I don't actually get what's keeping Batman busy, though. That's the only detail here that feels a bit off to me. Well, why is Batman so busy that he's not noticing you guys? I mean, obviously...
So I'm wondering if it has to do with...
Well, just obviously by this point in the issue, yes, Batman has caught his first whiff of it from Anarchy, right? Obviously that's happening simultaneously, but yeah.
I'm wondering if the Minotaur is overvaluing Vandal Savage, and that's what he means by he's keeping him busy, right? Because of all the stuff that he's doing. That, you know, Savage is framing Batman for those cop deaths, you know, with Batman and Robin. So, you know, maybe that's what he's hinting at. So
I mean that would make sense. And that's maybe what he's trying to get at. It was just the way he phrased it. It felt different to me. Like it didn't quite. You know, freak crime brought to a heel by choking off the gang streets. The Bat stays too busy to realize how entangled we've all become. It almost felt like it was contradicting himself, because if all the freak crime is inactive, then surely Batman's get more free time than he normally does, because that's usually what he's so busy with.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm not even complaining about this. It's not really even a mistake or anything like that. It was just the way I read it. It didn't compute in my brain is making sense with what he just said. But yeah, you're probably right. It probably just means that he's too busy dealing with the police hunting him and all that. But yeah, and there's some other stuff in this issue though worth mentioning, because we've talked mainly about the gangs and Minotaur, which is obviously is the big focal point of the issue. So Bruce goes to see the scientist lady who's working on the device that takes away the
crown of thorns.
The crown of thorns, yes, that fixes the brains of the super criminals. and it's basically like a rom-com like meet cute type scene where he walks in and she's on a treadmill and she just thinks it's some new guy who works there, and she's kind of like, oh, I don't get off my treadmill and talk to someone until they've proven that they're worth talking to, or their ideas are valuable enough, and she's not realizing she's talking to Bruce Wayne. And then she ends up even saying something to the effect of, oh, if I get my hands on Bruce Wayne, I'll give him a good earful about, you know, our budgets or whatever it is. And then obviously he like turns off the treadmill and she like slides off of it and falls into his arms. It's all played for cutesy, you know, laughs, and she's kind of starstruck a little bit by the end. And then he says, you know what, you can tell me all your ideas tomorrow night at dinner, 7 p.m. And he walks out, and then like some of the other scientists who are walking around are like, have you got a date with Bruce Wayne? And she's like, no. And it's all played for comedy. It's definitely the most lighthearted scene in the entire issue. No question.
I do like that Fraction's making a more suave Bruce Wayne again. You know, like we see him interacting with random people, like this doctor. Well, not necessarily random, but regular people here. And yeah, it was a nice, fun, light scene. And Jimenez does a lot of like fun facial expressions from Dr. Zeller, you know, while she's, you know, like she's annoyed on the treadmill. And then just like the shock on her face after she realizes that it's Bruce on the following page and whatever. So it was a real fun piece to read. Yeah.
And then there's some advancement with the kid who filmed what happened with the cops and Tim. And it turns out the guy that he went to, the reporter, has actually been fired for a while, but he still tries to take the footage to his old boss at the newspaper. And he basically gets yelled at and told to leave. He's a drunk and whatever else. So it kind of sets up as like, okay, he's got someone kind of on the tail of what's the truth, but his reputation's shot, and no one's going to trust him. So it almost makes me feel like they'll become like a little ragtag duo trying to prove Tim Drake's innocence. Not that they know his name's Tim Drake, obviously, but
but Robin.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, that's an interesting wrinkle, because last time I liked him going to a reporter, but I think this made a little bit more of an uphill battle than just, oh, the reporter's got the information now and he can convey it to the world, you know.
And also the fact, like, there used to be all of these newspapers in Gotham, but because of the state of the world, right, and everything's on digital and all that, you know, there's barely any left, and then no one even pays a lot of attention to that one, right? Because it's the Gotham Eye, you know. So they're putting an uphill battle here, or like even if it does get out, who's gonna find out? You know what I mean? It's not like it's the Daily Planet, you know, or the Gotham Gazette, you know. So I do like that they put that there, that they made the struggle seem that much more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it's why any newspaper's also got a website these days. The website's arguably more important. The print's there for anyone who needs it, but like the website's the important part now. Yeah, so, and then the other big part, of course, is Batman getting after Anarchy, who is like hiding in fear because all the gangs are after him for what he tried to do. And he doesn't even know, like, he even says, someone paid me off to try and rob that truck, which does raise an interesting question. Who paid him off, knowing full well that this would ignite something with all the gangs? Like, part of me's thinking Minotaur himself, because he wanted to like teach a lesson to all these like gangs. Part of me's thinking Vandal Savage, because he wanted to see this play out. Or it could be another party altogether who's, you know, yet to be really introduced into the story. But yeah, no, it's funny because like, obviously there's not a lot of Batman himself in this issue, because we do focus so much on the gangs, and like all of the stuff at the start and the end is all very much about the setup of Minotaur, the conflict that's happening, and then by the time he's like grabbing Anarchy and making him tell him stuff, like Anarchy's like, hey, there's a new player in Gotham who's in charge of all the crime. It's more organized than it's ever been. So Batman's getting his first whiff of it here. So I mean, if nothing else, it is fun to see Batman go up against another villain who's got an animal theme. Just, you know, the Bat versus the Minotaur has got a ring to it, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I just love the whole idea that the Minotaur is trying to create a maze of Gotham, right? And then you just get the whole myth of the myth of the Minotaur on Crete and Perseus and all this other stuff. And I feel like Batman fits into that really well, right? Because we always think of, you know, Batman having a plan and all this other stuff, and you drop him into a maze like this, but he doesn't realize he's in the maze. Like, you know, I just like that. for that. And then the interaction with him in Anarchy, I like that Batman pointed out. He goes, "You were willing to jump off of a roof with no plan. How bad is this?" Right. So I love that that's kind of his first tell.
Oh, yeah, and Anarchy's
Like this-
even begging, like, "Hey, take me. I'll get me witness protection. I'll
Yeah.
turn over state secrets, and I'll talk about everything that needs to be talked about. I just
Yeah.
protect me from them, or him even." So. Yeah, I mean, it's really working hard to try and sell Minotaur as a big bad. I think this is a solid introduction. Now, has it been successful enough to make me think he's as big a deal as it's making him out to be? That'll take a few more issues. That'll take a bit more, seeing him interact.
Yeah.
Like that'll take me seeing his first interaction with Batman specifically. How does that play out? But it's not a bad start to a new villainous character in Gotham.
No, I think he's got a cool look too, because it's a Minotaur, but it's like this digital helmet, right? It almost looks like a VR headset kind of deal, right? Like one of the big bulky ones.
Well, he's got like a red line, like or as I say, a red line, a red light going down the middle, and it's almost like it's like, are you familiar with the Cylons from Battlestar Galactica?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
They have kind of this one red like light eye going across, but the light kind of moves from side to side. You kind of get that vibe with this Minotaur, where there's like a sort of central light going up and down inside this line.
Yeah.
Which I think looks good. So
yeah. And then the helmet jets off like the horns of a Minotaur, and he looks cool. I'm always a fan of a mask with a suit, right? Like I always call it like the proper lucha, where like you go and watch any lucha libre thing, and one of the guys will show up in a full suit while wearing the lucha mask, and I always think it's such a cool look. And I feel like that's what's kind of going on here as well, because he's wearing the full like super nice suit with this big techno helmet. And yeah, it's Jimenez doing some really cool design work and making it fun to read, which, I mean, it should come as no surprise. Like, he's been a really solid Batman artist for a long time now. So to see these new characters play out it's also cool.
Yeah, and I'm always a fan of superhero comics having proper supporting cast, so having Dr. Zeller be a recurring character who has interacted a couple times with Batman and has like an ongoing plot, but now she's interacting with Bruce. I like that that's there. I like the Minotaur's been introduced as this new villain. And there's, ongoing things that feel like they're a part of Gotham right now, like Savage being commissioner and all the things he's doing as part of that, which ties into the other plots. I think it's interesting Fraction waited till issue 4 to introduce his new villain, but I think that is quite smart actually, because we get a taste beforehand of like what Gotham's like right now, and we already have a lot of moving parts, so that dropping him in it now, it feels like, oh, this is something else on top of what we've already done.
Yeah,
I think it works quite well in this case to make Gotham feel pretty alive, but yeah, well, I mean, we'll see where it goes. All right, we giving Batman, Matt?
I'm gonna as an 8.5.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I was thinking. 8.5. I'm not going to call it amazing, which is what a 9 and up would be, but pretty great. I liked the introduction of the new character. I liked kind of the questioning at the start, like what's got all the gangs in a tizzy? Like what was it? Is this some stupid little misunderstanding, and that's all it is? But it does make me question who tried to set off this misunderstanding if it wasn't one of these parties themselves. So curious. Batman issue 5, legacy number 933, Matt Fraction writing with Jorge Jimenez on the art. So this issue is the date, or maybe it's not a date. Maybe just one of them thinks it's a date. But, the doctor lady, is getting picked up by Bruce, and this entire issue takes place over the course of not even their date, just on the way to the date. There's like bad guys and motorbikes start chasing after them. And effectively what this issue becomes is kind of this comedy bit of this action sequence where Bruce is like having to drive with the skill of like an expert stunt driver, and just like, but not giving up the fact that he's Batman to her, but they're having like the meet cute stuff of like, you thought this was a date, you're wearing a skirt and heels, and she's like, no, I didn't think this was a date, get over yourself, Mr. Wayne. And there's just there's a lot of this back and forth as they're like dodging assassins, and I'll say this up front, right? I really like this issue. It's a fun time, and a part of that is that it is just this like him trying to make normal conversation as they're in these, because eventually once you get like halfway through the issue, he's having to like drive the car off the highway and land on a road underneath, and it's, you know, all this big action stuff, and I'm just like, oh, this woman is shook from all this. This is like insane stuff that's happening, but it's very fun. It's very, you know, well paced, all that stuff.
They're coming after her, you know, but I don't think she realizes they're coming after her. You know, she thinks maybe wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah,
and he's the one that points out, that's made of birds.
Yeah, they're probably coming after you for various reasons. Yeah. Oh, we haven't even got to the lady made of birds yet. That comes later.
No, and there's just that, and her reaction to everything. I love, this is the stuff that I love from Matt Fraction, is the character dynamics. Like, he knows the voices for each of these characters inside and out.
Oh, sure. And you know, I think the other thing for me here is that despite the fact that there's never a bat suit, there's never a Batmobile, it's just, you know, Bruce and Civvies in a car and then just on foot, is that, like, Jorge Jimenez still feels like he's shining here, because so much of this is so well paced because of the pacing and the art and like how he presents all the action. It's really good stuff. You know, at one point he says like, hold on, I'm going to try something, because there's like, you know, guys in bikes up ahead, and we get this panel of the car spinning, and you just get, you know, these like ghost images of the car until its final, you know, direction, where he's ramming the side of the car into the guys in the motorbikes. It's good stuff. And they even find room for one of the little technology things where he's wearing like a sort of thin layer of like armor in his like suit, because of course he is, because he's Batman.
That layer 0 body armor is very John Wick, you know, when they explain like the suit that he wears, you know, is this thin layer of Kevlar and keeps you safe, and explains why John Wick can go into these situations without fear of bullets. And and after John Wick to Batman's not a bad thing.
And after that 2-page layout where they have to drive the car off of the bridge, they end up, you know, it just sort of breaks down and hits like a dumpster in an alleyway. And he's like, okay, we have to go on foot now, let's go. And that's when the lady that forms out of a bunch of ravens appears, looking halfway between like a samurai and Carmen Sandiego. That's the best description I can give you of this woman.
Yeah. Look, man, if this keeps up, if this can keep pace, this Fraction Batman run might be up there with the Morrison run in terms of, it's just fun, right? Like, this is, I feel like, where certain creators get lost on Batman, where here, again, there's no bat suit going on, right? But he's still doing very much Batman things. And then there's a lady that's made out of birds. We didn't need it. We could have just had the guys chase, them, and Batman fight them off or whatever. But no, we get this weird lady, and we get some, you know, more additions to whatever's going on in this crazy, crazy story.
Yeah, we also, you know, there's kind of a rom-com issue, but all taking place throughout an action, like, extended sequence, and that's a lot of fun. And then I read this right after Arkham, right? So I read Arkham, and then I read this. Not intentionally, per se. I just kind of like, oh, what do I read next? Oh, I'll go with Batman, thinking, oh, it'll be a bit lighter, perhaps, than some of the other books. And it was, but it was such a nice like change of pace. But like, those books complemented each other so much, because one was this dark horror story with, you know, murder and like, you know, foreboding doom of the villain being this ultra powerful thing, and then this one was just so light in a good way, but the character works so strong. And you know, there's little nuggets in here where like, oh, these motorbike dudes and this bird lady aren't working together because you know, they scare her off, so it's like, oh, okay, they're from different factions. She's probably on her own, I imagine, but you know, who's to say? We'll find out as we will learn more. And then throughout all this, while Bruce is fighting her and she's hiding in a dumpster, like the scientist lady, like he gave her a present and she didn't know what it was, and like he kind of insisted on like taking it from the car as if it was important, or she insisted on taking it from the car as if it was like, well, this is all went to shit, so I at least want this present you got me. It turns out it's like just a cube of like rare material that's like indestructible, and it actually ends up breaking the sword when it, because she swipes it and it goes through the dumpster and it hits this, and it's like, oh, that actually broke the sword, ended up kind of saving Bruce's life. It didn't really. I'm sure he'd have been fine without the help. Yeah, but, you know.
Well, it was the titanographene, which is what she's making that device out of. Yes. That's at the crux of the story.
Yes.
You know,
I had to hold back from calling it unobtainium.
Yeah, well, basically what it is, right?
Yeah. So yeah, fun action taking place. He thanks her for saving, and he convinces her not to go to the police. Like, no, like the best thing to do right now is just to go on the run. And she's like, hey, why are people trying to kill me? And he's like, oh, it's probably because of the work you're doing. You're developing something that will give people a choice of changing like what's bad about them. And people who are in power either hate that idea for one reason or the other, or maybe they just hate the idea of being confronted with the choice of like, wait, I'm not as best as I could be. I don't want to have to consider that possibility, so I'd rather this thing don't exist. So he gives her a piggyback as he climbs up a ladder. And there's some fun banter. There's her saying, don't look up, because she has to climb over the top of him first. So she's like, hey, I'm in a skirt, don't you look up, mister. And Bird Lady shows up at the top of the thing, and he gets ready to fight. And, you know, she's like, hey, you can fight quite well. You know, what actually are you when you're not pretending to be this? Like, she doesn't obviously get that he's Batman, but she clearly gets, okay, you're not just a dumb billionaire. There's something more about this going on. And, you know, that's when Damien shows up as Robin, and ends up taking her out with some, like, electrodes or whatever. He's like, oh, hey, yeah.
The bat snare,
The bat snare. This, you know, makes her deform. That's how you defeat her. You know, I learned about her when I was in the League of Assassins, blah, blah, blah. But he calls Bruce dad, and I was actually thinking before I turned the page, wait, isn't she like sitting like right there? And she pops out, and the final page cliffhanger is her going, father? I'm like, oh, Damien, you idiot, you've just blown the cover to an extent.
And this is where Jimenez kills it, right? Like, he's great at the action stuff.
Yes.
The look on all three of their faces. The Damien's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, the old shit.
Confusion. And then Bruce's complete frustration. You know, it's so well done. And
considering like everything she's just seen him do, and then Robin's his son, I mean, like, it's not going to take a lot for her to leap to, wait, you're Batman.
Yeah. I feel like we're going to get out of this by he's going to call in a favor to Superman to put on the bat suit. So they can be in the same place at the same time. You know,
although having said that, though, there's so much fun in this issue of her not expecting like what he's able to do, and like kind of doubting him constantly, that it does feel narratively to make sense that she does find out at some point. I was actually thinking that as I was reading that, oh, I actually kind of want her to find out he's Batman at some point now. And then obviously this issue ended with this, and I'm like, oh, okay, cat's out the bag. Like this is, we're going to explore this in some way. Maybe he'll try and like pretend that it's not true for a while, and maybe we'll do like a little like, you know, she knows, but he won't agree to it, so she keeps trying to prove it by like, you know, like Lois in Superman 2 when she's like jumping out of windows to like, hey, I know you're Superman, Clark. I'm going to prove it. Come save me.
And I also just, her whole vibe in the two issues that we've really gotten her in the last one and this one, I really like her as a character. So if she becomes a fixture to the Bat family in the same way that Leslie Tompkins and I'm drawing a blank on what's his name? The tech guy, Lucius Fox.
Okay.
Like Lucius Fox.
I mean, I think it's maybe a bit early to jump to she's going to be like a mainstay like that, but I think at the very least for this run, this idea of her being, if not a genuine love interest, which I still think they're kind of teasing with all the like her, like this isn't a date. Like it feels like, okay, this is totally a romantic thing we're doing here.
They flirt very well, you know. So there's that, and he even points out, he goes, you're wearing heels and a skirt, it wasn't a date, huh? Like, you know, just the back and forth and the banter and stuff. So a lot of fun. I really like this issue.
Like, it's very rare that I'll read like a love interest with Batman, like a new one, and think, oh, I want more of this. But I actually thought that as I was reading them like bantered in this issue, because normally it's just kind of like they're there to serve a purpose, they're there to set up a plot point or something. This actually feels like she's like a full-fledged character in this book that he's developing, and that's good. Now maybe there's plans to have her be killed or leave by the end of the run or whatever already. Who's to say? But at least right now she feels like an actual character, and not just, oh, she's here to set up, oh, she's actually like the villain in secret, or she's like, you know, going to be killed to like, you know, raise the stakes later because the villain's going to kill her to make Batman angry or something.
Compare this one to the one that Taylor created for his first arc in Detective. Like, I don't even remember her name, you know?
No. But I mean, to be fair, I've not learned this character's name yet either. But
well, I know this is Dr. Zeller. I know that much.
Okay, there you go. I don't remember that. I just Dr. Lady. That's all I keep calling her.
Yeah. But, you know, that one just seemed to feel that, like you said, oh, we need kind of a love interest to kind of propel certain plots forward or whatever. This just feels like he's slow playing it, and there's that flirting, there's that, like, that's full of meet cutes.
Yeah,
and that type of stuff.
it feels like an actual full-fleshed character that we're going to keep developing, and it's this wrench into everything where she's learned about who Batman is, possibly here, much earlier than most characters usually do. Like, it's something that's stumbled into by accident, and it's almost like the issue was saying, hey, we're doing a meet cute, like, sort of thing, but the actual meet cute is the ending of, like, her, like, in this adorable way finding out that Bruce is probably Batman.
That's that last page. I love it so much. Again, Jimenez kills it. Just with the body language, the looks, everything. Like you said, yeah, no, that's the real meat.
Yeah, especially since, like,
right here at the end.
all issue, Bruce is in complete control. Like, he's handling every threat that comes his way. He's fighting motorbikes. He's driving, you know, crazy, all that stuff. This final page is like, oh, this wasn't in your control. You just, like, this was a blunder. It wasn't your mistake, but you have no control of it. You have to, like, deal with this now, and it's not your fault. And that's satisfying because he's been so perfect at everything all issue.
And of course it's Damien.
Of course it is, yeah.
Of course it's Damien.
I wonder if we start next issue with Damien going, did I say father? I meant
Mr. Wayne.
No, I was trying to think of something that would sound like father, like rhymes with father. I can't think of anything though. I meant like, I thought you were a priest. That's what I meant. I thought he was like a holy man.
yeah. Him stumbling back on all that stuff would be so funny.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think they'll necessarily do that, but that's maybe his way out of. He's like, oh, I thought you were a priest, sir. Bye.
Yeah. I love what Fraction's bringing to this, and it does. And just looking at some of these panels, I got reminded this is the same guy that made me love Hawkeye as a character, right? And his run on that book with David Aja. And there's some similarities in the breakdowns, like with the panel that made this one was we see how the ladder goes down and there's an arrow pointing out, and I was like, oh, it's kind of like Hawkeye, and then it clicked. Oh yeah, same writer.
Yeah,
so,
there's another one early on actually where Bruce looks at his side view mirror and there's like a little like dotted line going towards it to show that he's looking at it. That again, obviously that's maybe more of an art thing, but that feels like something that Fraction's put in the script and said, hey, I want a thing here. Do a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that does make sense. I'm looking at that too. But yeah, and it shouldn't come as any surprise because it does. It actually kind of has some like the tone of that Hawkeye as well. You know, this has much bigger stakes because they're with Gotham, Batman, and stuff, and it's not the the Russian bros.
It's a bigger characters. It's a bigger world that we're playing in. But yeah, there's definitely a little bit of a parallel to it.
Same with that tone. So, but yeah, no, if this keeps going, if this can keep up, it'll be one of my favorite Batman runs. I enjoy reading it.
It's probably my favorite issue so far. You know, I'm not willing to jump ahead and make grand statements like you are, because you as previously established, you rate movies too quick and then later go, oh wait a minute, I maybe have overcooked this a little.
I look at it as where we've some of the other Batman stories that we've gotten, and right now we're kind of between Tech and Batman and Robin and this. We're in a very good spot for Batman. This though, I look forward to reading Fraction's Batman. When I went to get this week, I went, oh yeah, we got a Fraction Batman issue. This is good. And I can't say that about a main Batman book in a long time, right? Like I was like that with the I'm drawing a blank on names here. The Hayden Sherman art. Why am I drawing a blank?
Dan Waters, the Dark Patterns.
Yes. Yeah. There we go. Dark Patterns. I was like that with that, but that was a mini, right? So yeah, I get excited to read this, and that's a good sign.
Oh, sure. It's only 5 issues in, so I'm not ready to make any grand statements. Like, ask me again at issue 25, and maybe I'll start assessing about how it compares to other runs. You know, I've seen great runs fall apart after 12 issues, so that's not like. But I will say I did this as my favorite issue so far. I thought this was delightful in every way. It made me care about just these two characters meeting. I didn't think when they set up this meeting, this date, quote unquote, last issue, that it was going to be the entire focus of this one. And I don't know how I'd have felt about that if you told me it was going to be the entire focus, but it was great. I thought it was fantastic. Art was solid throughout. The car chase stuff all looked great. And then all the build up and the banter to this final cliffhanger was very well paced. It was basically flawless for me as far as like an issue of a comic book goes. So now No, having said that, you're going to think I'm going to say a 10. I'm not going to say a 10, but like I say, basically flawless, just in the sense that there's nothing to complain about. There's nothing for me to, dock points for. So with all of that, what are you giving Batman issue 5?
I'm going to give this a 9.5.
I am also giving it a 9.5. I thought this was fantastic. So here we go. Why is it not a 10? I don't really have an answer for you. It's just a gut feeling. Okay. Batman, issue 6, legacy number 934, Matt Fraction writing with Jorge Jimenez on the art. So, let's just get this out of the way, right? Was it Zeller, is her name? I want to say?
Zeller, yep.
So, Dr. Zeller, end of last issue, right, heard Damian call Bruce Wayne father. Or, to be more specific, she heard Robin call Bruce Wayne dad. That is very important that he's Robin in the scene, but Bruce Wayne's just Bruce Wayne. That's important for the dynamic here. And I'm just going to say it. Either she is pretending to have not figured it out, or she has been written to be too dumb. It's one or the other.
So I think she's pretending not to figure it out because of what gets revealed in the epilogue.
Yeah, and to make it clear what I'm saying here is that the opening pages of this issue make it clear that as far as she is admitting here, she knows that Bruce Wayne's son is Robin, right? But she is not apparently put two and two together that means Bruce Wayne is Batman. She instead, and to be fair, the art here in the first few pages is great. It's all the 8-panel grid with them just sort of awkwardly looking away and not looking at each other, and then eventually tries to talk and she kind of starts talking instead. Like all of that. And then, like, her being this awkward thing of, like, I'm not going to judge your parenting skills by letting your son be Robin, right? That's what it's all about. But there's a point where she says, and I'm sure, like, I'm not in danger because it's just me and you that know that I know, and I assume that you'll tell, pointy ears, like, he'll tell Batman, and I'm like, you've not figured...
Like she does this too.
Yeah. You've not figured out, or at least you're pretending not to know that Bruce Wayne is Batman. So, obviously, yes, I agree. The ending scene does kind of make me second guess what she knows or thinks or whatever, but we'll get to that. But throughout this first scene, all I was thinking was, okay, are you seriously trying to convince me that this scientist who is developing brain-altering technology doesn't even ponder the idea that Bruce Wayne might in fact be Batman?
She's like a neuroscientist. It is literally like it's not brain surgery. That's literally what she does.
Yep.
Right? Like that's what she studies. So I do like though too where he says what you learned tonight put you in great danger. And it's one of the panels on the 8 grid and it's a beat. She looks at him and is like, well, no offense, Mr. Wayne, but between the Moto ninjas and the bird woman with swords, I'm well past great danger. Yep. So like just her whole vibe tells me that Fraction's writing her as being willfully ignorant at this point, Yep.
And of course, when Bruce goes home, he's like, Damian, and Damian's like, I know, father. And Bruce just comes up and like punches the punching bag in half, and it's like, oh no, you effed up, Damian, right? You made a monumental thing. So like he's pissed, right? And there's a little moment here where he's chewing out Damian, where Ghost Alfred in his head like says Master Wayne, and he's like, not now, don't start. Just such a good moment. It felt like Alfred's there to try and balance out his temper in his head, but he's like, no, not now. Like I need to be mad right now because he messed up.
Yeah. And I was thinking at the beginning, it's like maybe Bruce is taking it too far, but however, they constantly are talking about you don't address each other. Oh, I just got to like cramp from playing football. Mid-sentence, that's fun. They address each other by code names and whatnot. So he, by all intents and purposes, when he's not in the suit, that should be Mr. Wayne, right? So
all the other mob bosses, including Penguin, are pissed at Hugo Strange, and this leads to later on where Hugo's unleashed his monster men during an attack. But there's also further advancements of the plot with the kid who caught Vandal Savage planting evidence at the crime scene, so they go to see Bullock and try and give him that, and Bullock's like, oh, you definitely caught something here, but like this will never hold up in Gotham, like he's like, well, if we get something to corroborate it, and he's like, hey, like, you know, the officer who survived that night died in hospital suspiciously, so you two may want to watch your backs. So it definitely feels kind of dire situation wise, but they're stringing this plot along. I assume eventually either this will become very relevant, or maybe Batman will come to see it. Perhaps he'll want to have this evidence for something. But regardless, that's going on. But yeah, so you know, we get this sequence where the monster men are attacking this like base of operations from one of the gangsters, Tozuki, who's in the previous scene, and like there's like a cleaning lady who's clearly just innocent and like hoping Batman shows up. And when he does, she's very like thankful, and she's like, "Oh, like I hoped you'd hear me. Like I know you have like ears everywhere, right?"
I do like that, and they said that's why she never says Batman, because he's always listening. And I was just like, yeah, we've heard about that with mob bosses and Superman, right? That they don't say his name because they don't want to bring the attention.
Yeah.
But that's the first that I've heard it with Batman.
Well, I think it's not actually that true with Batman. I think it's just her being like superstitious because Batman's built up his lore so good that she's taking it very seriously.
Yeah. regardless of the reason, right? They believe it's true that Batman can hear everything, you know? So I do like that. And the Jimenez, and I think Jimenez has his own colors. But the blue cape has really been popping through these 6 issues, and especially on that scene where he comes to save her with the new bat reel, just the way that the light hits it, you know, it makes him stand out more than the gray does, right? Like, so yeah, it looks so good.
Yeah, and then he uses the bat blades, he fights the monster man, all that's going on, whilst there's thugs on the outside firing weapons into the building. And we get some nice panels of the Batmobile coming in and Batman jumping down to you know, take some of them out. So you know, that's your action sequence for the issue. And you know, it's funny because like I think this issue is a really fun issue that advances all the plot lines. I think what it has going against it is that the last issue was such a well-focused, perfectly paced issue that it just pales a little bit by comparison because everything's so like fragmented with all the little things. The case in point, the next sequence is a very different thing. It's Tim coming by the Batcave to tell Batman that he's going to be quitting for a while because he feels bad about lying to his partner and he doesn't want to reveal who he's robbing life to Bernard, so instead he's going to just quit being Robin for a while. And you know, but Batman's very, you know, pleasant about it. There's the awkward hug and all the rest of it. Perhaps the more interesting reaction is that when Tim tries to go talk to Damian is being a little shit and calls him a traitor.
A quitter.
Yeah. So
which again, some of the personification of Damian, which is all over the place in the DCU. Sometimes he's written like a young adult, like in Batman and Robin. Right here, I feel he's being written a little bit younger. You know, I get the sentiment, but I feel like Fraction's voice is a little bit off. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of this is maybe that they're trying to compensate for the fact that he feels guilty about what he did, because he did mess up. So he's like, his childishness is coming out a little bit more harshly than it otherwise would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see that.
But it's like, yeah, what a night. Like, all this shit's happened. Because this is meant to still be the same night as the date night, all of this.
Yeah.
So, the final sequence, though, which is after the title page, because I was like, wait, is it the end of the book already? Because the title page is quite late. But it's like, no, there's another big scene at the end, but just one scene. And there's basically, it's Dr. Zeller going back to her lab, and there's a voice talking to her in like the empty, like the negative space, so just the black panels with the green text. And it almost looks, you know, like a computer talking to her. It's got that computer font. It's very, like, you know, she's talking to HAL 9000 or something like that. Now, that's obviously not what she's doing, but it gives you that impression. And it's, you know, the conversation is very interesting. It's clearly meant to be building to a surprise of who she's talking to, because the voice is saying things like, oh, how did your date night go? And she's like, oh, you're getting a bit personal here. So on and so on. So you get the sense that this is not supposed to be like a personal relationship, but it, like the voice, whoever this is trying to push it into more personal realms. But, you know, asking, will you see him again? Did you like Bruce Wayne? You know, he talks about getting lonely sometimes, and all that kind of thing. And then the reveal on the final page, and keep in mind she's been using her brain tech to try and rehabilitate villains, is what we've been doing with her story. The final page is inside a tank with cables connected to his mouth, and that's how he's talking through a computer, seemingly. It appears to be the Joker in this big vial of liquid with this brain thing on his head.
Yeah, but like, it's the Joker, but he doesn't have the build of the Joker, right?
It looks bloated.
Like,
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, Joker's wiry, right? This guy does not look wiry. Now, he has the pale skin, judging from being in this tank and whatever, and it looks like green hair or whatever it is, and the red nails and whatever. So yeah, I thought Joker, but I feel like something's off, right? But I really love this reveal here.
Yeah, well,
like,
I think the something off is basically just whoever he's changed because of what she's doing.
Yeah.
And if she's going to try and prove this stuff is effective, then what villain to do it on that would make a huge impact other than the Joker? I've rehabilitated the Joker. He's a sane, normal human being now, potentially. That's kind of a big sales pitch.
Yeah. The first piece that got me is in the dialogue that's all computerized. There's a ha. And I went, uh-oh.
Yeah.
They're not doing it. And then you keep going. And when he calls, you know, Bruce Wayne, he goes, oh, yes, doctor, I did manage to reach out. I haven't heard back, but it's only a matter of time. After all, he is my very best friend. And, oh, my God, the creepiness with the Joker in that tank, or who we're surmising to be the Joker, rather.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's an important exchange here. You gave the last bit of it, but I think it's very important that he talks about being lonely, and she says, what about that friend you were telling me about? Were you able to reach out? Maybe I could schedule a visit. And he says, oh, yes, doctor, I did manage to reach out. I haven't heard back yet, but it's only a matter of time. After all, he's my very best friend. Now, part of me thinks he's talking about Batman, because Joker has this, you know, fascination with Batman, and you know, maybe in some way he's orchestrating some of the things going on to lure Batman here, which would maybe suggest that he's not been as cured as maybe she thinks that she's doing so far.
Yes. And well, she also mentions that he burns out of the titanographine, which is the stuff that Bruce gave her on the date. You know, faster than ever anybody else does. Right. So that also, there's something else going on there, because you see her fitting a new piece on to put that device that she created back on him in the tank. So yeah, so there's something clearly going on here. And then I'm also trying to remember, in continuity, when's the last time we've seen the Joker? You know, so it's been a minute, right? If we're counting Hattush, and he had his jaw broken. You know, and this is you know, taking place after all that.
If we're counting Hattush, it's not been that long, technically, but
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But, you know, this takes place after all of that, you know, and we don't know what happened there quite yet. But yeah, I can't remember. But no, him being all bulky here too. I think if that's where they're going, right, we have this rehabilitated Joker, and he looks different to show like this is not the same guy. You know what I mean? I think that'd be cool too.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, the computerized like text and the way he's speaking made me think, oh, we're doing like a computer version of the Joker where he's like, you know, he's in the internet and he's like manipulating things from a different kind of playing field almost. So I'm curious to see where we go with that, and like where that bubbles up to, because you know we've got a lot going on right now. We got Vandal Savage's Commissioner to deal with. We've got, you know, the various villains and what they're up to. We've got this stuff with Zeller and the Joker and the tank. And we got the stuff going on with the Robins, the stuff with Batman being kind of framed for crimes so that they can take him out. There's a lot of moving parts to this run. And it's been very enjoyable because of that, where each issue feels kind of like a full part of the story. That said, though, some of the issues feel a lot more focused and enjoyable overall, like last issue, whereas this one's a little bit more of a collection of scenes, as opposed to like a really focused thing that feels like it all fits together. So, you know, I'm okay with that. I think, I don't know whether, I suspect that he's got Fraction's got like plans for like Tim long term, so I'm not sure what we're doing with that quite yet. I know some people maybe like reacted a bit strongly to, oh, he's given up being Robin, I don't like this. I'm like, oh, yeah, but this is only the start of the story, and he's clearly got plans for him. I don't think that's a big deal.
How many times Dick stopped being Robin before he became Nightwing? Like, there's just so many times. It's like a rite of passage at this point, you know. And the other thing too is that Damian has a crumpled letter from Gotham University as well. So like their whole conversation with Tim and Damian about living a life outside of being Batman's son, right? Not Bruce Wayne's son, Batman's son.
Yeah, could you read on the letter if it was like a acceptance or a rejection?
Let me see.
Because I'm thinking it's a rejection, and that's why he's upset. Maybe that's what adding to why he's in a pissy mood.
Let's see. No, it says, we're pleased to inform you that your application to Gotham University has been accepted. It says congratulations. And then when you look at the letterhead, it says Gotham University because it kind of trails off.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's almost like one of those things, like he's having an existential crisis as well, that like the guy who, like, more or less, he looks up to all the Robins at a certain level. And I feel like him seeing Tim take a door out, you know, scares Damian, because now that makes it a possibility. So I do like that two different writers are kind of playing with who is Damian Wayne outside of being Robin, you know, outside being the son of Batman. And just their juxtaposition here and him having like that, he doesn't know what to do, right? He's at this crossroads, and him holding himself in the room, not opening the door for Tim and whatnot. So, yeah, I do feel like this is a good, like, in the trade, this is the last issue, right? It leaves a very episodic, where it doesn't necessarily wrap things up. No. But it's a good to start new things as well.
Yeah, honestly, it doesn't necessarily feel that prominent versus any other issue, because this isn't in arcs in the same way that a lot of other books are. But it does feel like they intentionally put this reveal of the Joker at the end of issue 6, because there'd be a big cliffhanger at the end of the first trade. That's what it does feel like, for sure.
Yep.
But no, I mean, it's very well crafted. Jimenez's art is really good throughout. I like you've got that pacing in that opening scene, which is one of my favorite scenes of the whole book, honestly, is that awkward silence and then the conversation between Bruce and Zeller. But I really like as well, like when the fighting the Monster Men happens, there's a lot of white negative space, which makes it feel kind of old school. It feels like it's like a more of a, like the art style is still more modern, but the way it's presented feels almost like a 70s book or an 80s book might show it, kind of thing. So, no, I'm still digging it a lot. So as much as I'm saying it's not as like amazing as last issue, it's still a great issue. I think. Yeah. So
Faction's really doing some good work with Batman, I have to say, because there hasn't been an issue that I've disliked. Just the ones that I've definitely liked more than the others.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I think this idea of like Joker in this situation where it's like, she thinks she might have like helped cure him, and maybe he is a little altered than normal, but if he is talking about Batman being his best friend and wanting to draw him in, it still feels like, oh, there's going to be like an unhealthy obsession quality to that's maybe presents itself a little differently to the normal. I'm just going to try and provoke Batman as much as possible, even although he may just end up be doing that anyway. Maybe he's just provoking him in different ways.
It also, like, I don't know how much how familiar you are with like Simpsons stuff. I don't know if you're a big Simpsons watcher back in the day, but there was an episode where Homer is being like Mr. Burns' assistant and finally gets enough of him and like yells at him, and he might even shove him down, and then Burns ends up becoming like this weird devotee to Homer. And I kind of feel like this version of Joker, that would make him seem that much more dangerous, where he becomes like this Batman fanboy. And it's just like, oh yeah, I want what's best for Gotham, and what's best for Gotham is best for Batman type weird twisted thing. And I could almost see that with here, where he's like, oh, Batman's my best friend, so I got to give him what he wants, you know? And it's not what Batman wants, right? Not from the Joker, at least.
Yeah, I wonder if we bring at any point, like, say, Dick and Babs into the story. Not because in like a big way, but just if we're dealing with the idea of Tim and Damian being at different stages of what's my life outside of being Robin for Batman, it would make a lot of sense for Dick and Babs to eventually like at least be spoken to in the context of that story, because they are older and they've kind of moved away from Batman to an extent. They've got their own independent lives. So
yeah, they have an identity outside of it, you know, which I feel like that's what Tim's striving for. But he might need to take the break, because I do feel like Babs and Dick also both took breaks from being the respective superheroes when they needed to. So again, it just feels like I saw a lot of people upset with it. And I was just like, no, man, this is character growth. I'll take an attempted character growth instead of keeping them stale.
Yeah,
and just him having, you know.
I wonder if the disappointment partly though comes from the this is for Bernard, and I feel like most people haven't been that enthusiastic about Bernard as a character, and it feels like that relationship's not been like a part of like a really great story. It's been kind of in like this little mini here or there that's, you know, not been that popular kind of thing. You know, it's not like, you know, like, oh, there's been a great romance between two characters where he's been like the, you know, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example to compare it to, but
no,
I can't.
It definitely could be, but I mean, for the emotional crux of the story though, it still works regardless of it. Regardless if it was, you know, if Tim's parents were still around and like the parents asking questions of Bruce, like what happened to our son, I still think it lands the same way, where it's like, I don't want to have to lie to people I care about, you know? And it's something that I have to come to terms with on my own. And that means taking a break from putting my life on the line all the time, which again, I like that as a story point for a young hero.
Yeah. I don't think I don't think it really matters like who Bernard is necessarily. He's just kind of the conduit for what the decision Tim is making, at least at this point in the story. I'd be surprised if we even see much of Bernard at any point during the story that Tim goes through in this book. So I don't know. We'll see what they do with it. But I thought it was a pretty good issue still. I'm really looking forward to this book every month. So what are you giving Batman number 6?
I'm giving us an 8.
I think I will give it... Well, I think I'll go with the 8.5 on this one as well, actually. I really find it a very pleasant read each month, even if this wasn't as completely focused and, like... I don't want to say perfect, that's maybe too strong a word, but like last month's issue was really, really good.